You may well have thought that the 19th CPC National Congress was already over, and you'd be right. But we have one last thing to do, and we are back in the media centre for a final press conference. As you can see around me, journalists are gathering to hear a report from the Congress spokespeople on an interpretation of the report delivered to the 19th CPC National Congress last week. It's going to be covering what Xi Jinping said, and essentially it will be a wrap-up of what's been going on over the last 10 days or so. So to get some expert impressions of this, we're going to be joined by Su Yuting, who's CGTN's political reporter, who is about to do a live cross. And we're going to go over here right now to join her and find out what she thought about Xi's report last week, and also the Standing Committee revelation yesterday, and her general impressions of working at the Congress over the past week. So we're going to sneak around past these cameras. Hey.
Hey.
How are you?
Hi, John.
Good to see you. Nice to meet you.
Yes, we are quite busy preparing for the live cross.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we want to get your expert opinion and on the past 10 days or so. So last Tuesday, last week, we were both in the Golden Hall, I think, for the pre-Congress briefing.
Yes, it's really quite a busy week.
Yeah, it seems like a long time ago now.
Yeah.
So could you give us your impressions of how it's been for you covering the Congress?
Okay, of course. You know that over the past 10 days, it's quite busy for me, and I went to the Great Hall of the People in Beijing and also here at the Media Center for the press briefings to the media. And you know that over the last 10 days, we have already got lots of information about the report made by General Secretary Xi Jinping to the 19th National Congress. And he has made it very clear that China's new vision for development, and he also said it's very significant to usher in a new era with the socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era. So that's very important thinking by General Secretary Xi Jinping. And I noticed that everyone, not only you and me, are very interested in the Chinese political transformation and economic development, but also the international community is also very interested in what's happening here in China. I've talked to many foreign journalists. They told me that they're very interested in what China will do in the next 5 years to usher in China into the great modern socialist country by the end of mid-21st century, and to realize the Chinese dream with national rejuvenation. Yes, John. Okay,
so what were your highlights from the report by Xi Jinping last week? Because I think today, as I understand it, we're going to get the official interpretation of that report. What do you think we're going to see over the next 2 hours or so?
Oh yeah, you know that the upcoming events, that's the maybe the last press conference during the 19th National Congress. And you know that the spokesperson of the CPC will just host the press conference, and leading officials will meet the press and answer questions from journalists. And I've talked to some of the experts and journalists previously. You know that today is a very significant day for them, because only those who get this kind of 请柬, the invitation.
Can we show the invitation?
Yeah, the invitation, only those who get this invitation will be able to attend this very special last press conference. So it's very great honor for those journalists who have been accredited for the coverage of today's event.
Yeah, an invitation-only event.
Yes.
And another invitation-only event was yesterday at the Golden Hall in the Great Hall of the People, where the new Standing Committee was revealed. It's a very dramatic moment on TV, but you were actually there in the room.
Yes, I was there at the Great Hall of the People at the Eastern Great Hall, and you know that the 7 top leaders just meet the press for the first time. So it's really very exciting for the media to meet them. And you can notice that not only Xi Jinping and also other 6 top leaders, they have full experiences in guiding the country into the future, because they are very young. You know that they were all born after the establishment of the People's Republic of China in 1949. So that's the reason why they have already gained lots of experiences experiences not only at the grassroots level, but also, that they are promoted to the senior posts later. For example, Xi Jinping started his political career 44 years ago.
44?
Yeah, 44 years ago. That's a long time, and he has already gained lots of experiences, running the country. And over the past 5 years, Xi Jinping has spent, I can give you some figures.
Okay.
Xi Jinping has already spent more than 150 days to the 50 local inspection tours around the country. So that's pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other top leaders, they have also have lots of academic papers, and they are good at the philosophy and running the country. Most of them have the experiences in the eastern coastline line and also the less developed western regions.
Okay.
So,
and it's an interesting example of how the Chinese system is a little different from others around the world. In Xi Jinping, as you mentioned before, he worked across the country in Ningda and Zhejiang, lots of different places, building up experience, which isn't always the case.
Yes,
exactly. Outside of China, this is very unique to it.
Yeah, it's very unique, and you just remind me that last in September in Xiamen, the BRICS summit, Xi Jinping have already been a governor there in Xiamen as well. So that's the reason why that people believe that the new leadership will just usher in a new era of socialism with Chinese characteristics. And that some of the reporters just share their points of view about the upcoming press conference. And one reporter from Pakistan, he told me that China's experiences in wiping out the poverty just set out a very good example for other emerging developing countries to learn from. And that reporter from Italy, he also told me that the international community is focusing on China because China is emerging as a very good contributor to global economic governance.
There was a lot spoken about in the report last week about how China was developing into a model which developing countries could follow. Do you think that's the case for topics other than just the general model, for example, in the environment or somewhere like that? Is there things that other countries can learn from China about?
Yes, that the environment is also a very significant issue. And I think that General Secretary Xi Jinping mentioned lots of issues in the report to the 19th CPC National Congress. Oh, sorry, I think my phone's just ringing now. They are calling for me for the live interview. But sorry, we are doing a live now, so may I talk to you later?
Okay.
Thank you very much.
On the phone preparing
we will
for
talk to you later.
Live cross to the TV channel, which we'll be joining in about 5 or 10 minutes time.
Yeah, sorry.
So, no problem.
Yeah, so keep talking. Previously, we've talked about
on the environment in the report last week, one of the interesting things for me was that an analysis of the words done showed that environment was mentioned more times than economy, which shows maybe where the focus over the next 5 years is going to be, of a different kind of economic growth going forward.
Yes,
Not simply focused on growth, but also on better quality growth.
Better quality, yes. That right now, Xi Jinping is calling for a modern economy. So the modern economy is the requirement for the strategic goal. And the modern economy is coming in the contradiction between the, unbalanced and inadequate development and people's ever-growing needs for better life. So previously, the contradiction was between the ever-growing material and cultural, cultural needs of the people in the near future, and between the backward social production. So that just indicates that in the near future, China will emphasize the quality of the development. Yes.
Yeah, it's a slightly kind of nuanced change for maybe people from the outside, but it actually means quite a lot for people in China and China's future.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much,
You need
Zhang.
to go, don't
you? Sorry, the time is so limited because
no
I
problem.
need to get preparation for the live cross, which will begin very soon.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us. And as I said, our viewers will be able to see you doing the live cross.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Good luck.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to leave Su Yuting to prepare for her live cross. We can see behind me the press conference is filling up, and they're going to be talking about the report which Xi Jinping gave to the 19th CPC National Congress last Wednesday, so over a week ago now, and they're going to give the official interpretation of that. So probably covering issues like this build-up of the military, to a better quality military, China's role on the global stage, and internal issues like the improvement in environmental standards, and also, as Xu Yuting was just saying there, a more balanced economic growth around the country. We're going to be hearing that very, very soon when we go over to the channel feed. And before that, you'll see Xu Yuting again giving an introduction to the press conference. So far, we're thinking it's going to be the spokesman for the 19th CPC National Congress giving the briefing. But I don't know if we can pan around to see the chairs here. There's, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chairs. So it's going to be a series of spokesmen. We don't know who they are quite yet, but we're going to find out in about 15 minutes time when they come out on stage and start giving the briefing, which should be an interesting experience for all of us, because quite what's going to happen, I don't know. I don't know whether they're going to sum up and say this is what happened last week, or whether they're going to give a deeper analysis into what was said by Xi Jinping on last Wednesday, or in fact also go over a lot of the issues that were discussed by the delegates over the past week at the Congress, because during the Congress, delegates were meeting often behind closed doors and also in some open sessions to discuss regional issues before getting together to discuss wider ranging issues and how they come together to affect China's future. We had the pleasure to go to several press conferences last week here in the media center. You may have seen them live on CGTN on topics like anti-corruption, discipline within the party, the environment, media, culture, education, the military, and those are all topics that are likely to come up again today, I'd imagine. We also yesterday had a very, very big announcement, which was the day after the official end of the 19th CPC National Congress and the first plenary session of the 19th Central Committee, where the Standing Committee was revealed and also the new makeup of the Politburo. We were hearing from Xu Yuting earlier about how exciting it was to be in the room when those 7 men came out on stage. And maybe we'll hear a little bit more about that today. I'm not quite sure whether they'll cover that or not. But obviously that's a big issue which is in the news around the world right now. And looking ahead, something that probably isn't going to come up today, but I'm going to move around so you can see Yuting preparing for her live cross as well. Something else that's going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks, which you can follow on CGTN, is the arrival of Donald Trump in China for meetings in Beijing, which is going to be a big event which we'll be covering pretty broadly. Lots of articles, lots of video, and lots more live streams for you to enjoy, and I'm sure many opinion pieces on the role of China and the US in the Trump presidency. There's plenty to look forward to. And if you have any questions today about the 19th CPC National Congress, you can please post them or put them in the comment section on our social media platforms. We're live at the moment on Facebook and on our app and on Weibo and Twitter and also YouTube, I believe. So if you have any questions, please post them. We can probably not get back to you live right now, but we can always get back to you later and try and give you any answers that we can. And also, as the press conference goes on, you'll be hearing briefings from the 7 people who are going to be up on the stage shortly, but also a question and answer session at the end where some of these journalists who are packing the room, maybe we can pan around and have a look at all these people over here. They're going to be asking questions over the next couple of hours. So please post your comments and we can try and answer them. If you don't hear the question that you want to ask yourself, then we can do our best to answer it for you. So very shortly, we're going to be heading over to the channel feed to meet Xu Yuting once again on the TV, and then she'll lead straight in to the press conference, which will be getting underway in about 15 minutes' time.
Recently concluded 19th CPC National Congress. In a few moments, we'll go live to a news conference on the interpretation of the report. Joining me in the studio later will be our current affairs commentator Einar Tengen and Mr. Lubell Chung, the Dean of the Center for International Business Ethics at the University of International Business and Economics. The new CPC leadership was announced Wednesday morning. Xi Jinping was elected for a second term as the General Secretary of the Communist Party of China's Central Committee. At a news conference a day after the National Congress, Xi introduced members of the new leadership group and talked about the future. CGTN's Zhou Yun has more from the Great Hall of the People.
China's new leadership lineup capturing the world's attention. Xi Jinping was re-elected to his post atop the party. He addressed the media and introduced the other newly elected members of Politburo Standing Committee. Xi thanked party members for their continued trust.
在这里，我代表新一届中共中央领导成员
Here, on behalf of the newly elected central leadership, I wish to express our heartfelt thanks to all other members of the party for the trust they have placed in us. We will work diligently to meet our duty, fulfill our mission, and be worthy of their trust.
All the members of the leadership have extensive experiences. Each one has held party or administrative posts at provincial level. And this, together with their experience working in the Central Party organization, gives them a comprehensive understanding of China. They all have master's degrees and above in areas such as economics, law, and management, which will prove valuable as they help govern the nation. Xi Jinping said the party's new leaders will play crucial roles in the years to come.
经过长期努力，中国特色社会主义进入了新时代。
With decades of hard work, socialism with Chinese characteristics has entered a new era. In this new context, we must get a new look, and more importantly, make new accomplishments. The coming 5 years between the 19th and 20th Party Congress is a period in which the time frames of the two centenary goals will converge. Not only must we deliver the first centenary goal, we must also embark on the journey towards the second centenary goal.
Another common thread tying the 7 leaders on the Standing Committee together is their commitment to pushing forward reform and opening up policies. General Secretary Xi Jinping himself is a strong advocate of opening up the economy. At the press conference, he said the party's leaders are determined to implement deeper reforms and further open China to the world.
2018年，我们将迎来改革开放40周年。
In 2018, we will mark the 40th anniversary of the launch of Reform and Opening Up. Reform and Opening Up is a crucial move that is shaping China's future. 40 years of reform and opening up has allowed our people to lead decent and even comfortable lives. We will review our experience and build on the good momentum to continue modernizing China's system and capacity for governance, and make determined efforts to comprehensively deepen reform and open up China still wider to the world. We will see that reform and opening up complement and reinforce each other. It is my conviction that the great rejuvenation of the Chinese nation will become a reality in the course of reform and opening up.
The 19th CPC National Congress has drawn up the blueprint for the country's development in the next 5 years, and now it is expected the members of the Standing Committee of the Political Bureau will turn the guidelines into specific policies and actions to pursue a higher quality development and a more prosperous nation. Zhou Yun, CGTN, reporting from the Great Hall of the People, Beijing.
And now let's go to CGTN's Su Yuting, who has the latest on the news conference. Su Yuting, thanks for joining us. Can you tell us more about the new members of the Standing Committee?
Well, Rachel, all the top leaders were born of the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949. And you know that over the past 5 years, unprecedented efforts have been taken all across the countries. And all the 6 political bureau standing committee members are good reformer, and also they have implemented good efforts to reform the country. And they have also solved the deep-rooted problems with open minds, foresight, and innovative thinking. And the new leaders are widely seen as having firm ideals and convictions, strong loyalty to the party, and also deep love for the country. And all of them have received a higher education and demonstrated in-depth understanding of philosophy and strategic thinking with a relatively high level of theoretical thinking. And many have published academic papers or even books during their careers. And the 7 leaders have also accumulated rich experiences in practice. They are viewed as having a good sense of the times and caring about the people. Xi Jinping, for example, started his political career 44 years ago. And over the past 5 years, he has spent 150 days on 50 local inspection tours around the country. And other leaders have also have extensive experience working at grassroots level and have been promoted to senior posts due to their excellent performances and good reputations. And most of the 7 leaders have worked in both well-off coastal areas in the east and less developed central and western regions. And a number of them have played pivotal roles in the fight against poverty and successfully tackled difficult and risky issues in the fields of economic development, people's welfare, and urban development and management, the anti-corruption campaign, and also industrial transformation. And moreover, the new leaders have a deeper understanding of opening up and win-win development with broader global vision and abundant experience in dealing with international issues. Rachel?
Well, Yuting, this is the last news conference of the National Congress. Tell us a little more about what we'll expect to see at the news conference today.
Yes, Rachel. You know that I came here very early in the morning, and I noticed that other reporters are just the same. They arrived here at least an hour earlier in order to get a good position to film and cover this event. And only those who get this kind of invitation will be able to attend this very significant press conference. And later, you know that just behind me, the leaders and senior officials will just meet the press and answer questions from journalists. And you know that I have lots of questions to ask from diplomacy to economy, politics, technology.
All right, it sounds like we're losing our connection with Su Yuting there. As we wait for the start of the news conference here in Beijing. So hopefully we'll get a chance to reconnect with her a little bit later on. Also joining me today for more on this is, excuse me, Mr. Lubell Chung, Dean of the Center for International Business Ethics at the University of International Business and Economics, and Einar Tangen, a current affairs commentator. Welcome to the both of you. Thanks for joining me today. Mr. Liu, the Politburo Standing Committee, we finally got to see them for the first time yesterday. And it's notable how many members have high educational backgrounds. Some of them even have PhDs. What do their educational backgrounds mean for the CPC, and how will the new top leadership influence China's development and policy shift in the future?
Well, this is the 6th leadership of the Communist Party, and they are now operating in a totally new context, both globally and domestically, and therefore they do need at least 3 fronts. Number one is that they need to build a strong theoretical framework, and 2 is that they need to have practical experience, and 3 that they need to show their allegiance to the socialist road. So all of them are there equipped with the 3 major privileges that are there to manage this country and to point to the new direction. And right now, given all the challenges in the global context, and to build confidence and to build self-recognition in the grand cause to push forward the Chinese socialist construction, it's important that these qualities are there to give the clear guidance to the Chinese people to move forward, and also to build a more predictable prospect for the whole world to look at China.
Mm-hmm. And I know.
I agree with everything you said, but this is really the generation that has still experienced the times during the Cultural Revolution. They had the opportunity for education. So this is really a changeover generation. The next generations to follow in terms of leadership will be further removed from those times. And the spirit of sacrifice is very important. I mean, this shaped Xi Jinping. It also shaped, I think, almost all of the people that we see see up on that stage right now. So I think it's very important. There's this mixture of belief in the system, even though it was very difficult times, that they think that the way forward is, as they have put out, a mixture of pragmatism and ideology, which is a little bit of a change from Deng and then Mao, because it mixes both of them.
It was General Secretary Xi's speech yesterday where he mentioned no one must be left behind on the march toward common prosperity and how China should strive toward people-centered philosophy of development. What's your take on this, and how will people-oriented philosophy lead China into a more balanced society?
Well, this is an aspect that really has distinguished China's form of socialism, is that it's not only this commitment. You know, in the U.S. we have this idea of war on terror, war on drugs, war on poverty, but we haven't won those wars. And the reason why is because after the big slogans, there's really nothing there. China is quite the opposite. They have 2 million people working very carefully. They assembled 89 million reports that cover individuals, families, and villages, assessing what is the path out of poverty, which is $1.92 a day by UN standards, US dollar per day. And they said, well, we're going to do whatever is necessary. If it's a question where they're disabled and they need to have some sort of subsidy, we're going to provide that. If it's a question of moving a village because the area that they're in is unsustainable and it doesn't make sense to run roads and transportation, electricity, utilities to a place that ultimately would trap these people in poverty. So they're making decisions. Sometimes these can seem a little hard from the outside, but long term, you know, they're looking out for the future of these people. And I think this kind of commitment on a granular basis is what separates what China's been able to accomplish versus many other nations which have tried the same thing.
Mr. Liu, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think, you know, if we look at the historical development of the Chinese leadership generations, you know, Mao really put China on this firm hold of independence, and Deng really helped China to create more wealth. And this leadership is really helping China to build more confidence and stand firmly on the global stage. So, by achieving that, we have to be stronger, and people will have to live a better quality of life at home, so that they, they do not only have dignity by independence, but also they have decency in their lifestyle. So right now, given the ill balance between the haves and have-nots, and between the coastal area and the hinterland area, so there is immense amount of task to move ahead. Even though we have achieved a great deal in poverty alleviation, in the infrastructure construction, etc. So we do really have very high expectations on this leadership to further guide China to really to be stronger, on a global stage.
And speaking of on a global stage, it seems as though there's been a lot of international coverage this year of the National Congress by comparison to 5 years ago. I know an increasingly number of journalists have been covering the 19th National Congress event. I think it was up almost 7% compared to 2012. We had about 1,800 foreign journalists register for the event this year. Tell us more about that and just having more of the international coverage.
Well, I mean, it's a function of a couple of things. One, China's rise politically and economically, initiatives like the Belt and Road Initiative, but also uncertainty about traditional players, especially in Europe with Brexit. Donald Trump, it's unclear. He'll be here in 2 weeks. Hopefully there's some more clarity that develops there, but it might not. And the greatest difficulty in business and diplomacy is uncertainty. And with Xi coming in, putting the Belt and Road into the Constitution, putting his stamp of his thought out there and saying, I have another 5 years at least, there is this sense that, continuity. China is, we know what China is going to do. This is not going to be a situation where China says, next week we're going to change policy. It's a very, very deliberative process. Everything is looked at incredibly over a long period of time, sometimes in some people's opinions too long, but then they test it out. They'll have some sort of model. and they'll start developing rules based on the reaction to this model before they roll out a full implementation. Not unlike a corporate model in many ways. I mean, if you had looked at Xi Jinping as the chairman of a very large multinational corporation which was confronting the issues that it had to do, I mean, very similar.
Right. I'm going to have to interrupt as it looks like the news conference is about to get underway. So let's go live now to the press conference hall where a panel of officials is set to brief the news media on the interpretation of Xi Jinping's report. They will take questions from journalists following that. And let's listen in. It was on Tuesday, the Communist Party of China unveiled its new leadership. The new CPC Central Committee was elected by just over 2,300 delegates and specially invited delegates at the closing session of the 19th CPC National Congress. Xi Jinping, also president of China, was elected into the new Central Committee. All right, looks like that news conference is about to get underway.
Friends from the media, guests, good morning. The 19th National Congress of the Communist Party of China was successfully concluded on October the 24th. At this press conference today, we have relevant officials to interpret and elaborate on the report to the 19th Party Congress. They will also take your questions. Present at the press conference are Mr. Xiao Pei, Inspector of the Central Leading Group for Inspection Work, Mr. Wang Xiaohui, Vice Minister of the Publicity Department of CPC Central Committee and Executive Deputy Director of the Policy Research Office of the CPC Central Committee, Mr. Leng Rong, Director of the CPC Central Committee Party Literature Research Office, Mr. Yuan Shuhong, Secretary of the Party Leadership Group and Deputy Director of the Legislative Affairs Office of the State Council, Mr. Yang Weimin, Deputy Director of the Office of the Central Leading Group on Financial and Economic Affairs, and Mr. Jiang Jingquan, Chief Inspector of the Inspector's Office of the Central Commission for Discipline Inspection at SASAC and member of the SASAC Party Committee. First, we'll have Mr. Yuan Shuhong to make a briefing. Friends from the media, good morning. Let me share with you some of the understanding and observation on the historic achievements and changes since the 18th Party Congress. At the very beginning of the report to the 19th Party Congress, it says that the 5 years since the 18th National Congress have been a truly remarkable 5 years in the course of the development of the party and the country. The phrase truly remarkable reflects the keen impression and enormous pride of the 89 million party members and the 1.3 billion Chinese people. Domestically, over the past 5 years, the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core has held high the banner and set the direction, worked hard to overcome difficulties, and delivered remarkable achievements. In the short 5 years, our party, country, and the armed forces have renewed and regenerated themselves, and they have emerged stronger and more indomitable than ever before. If we look at the world, the past 5 years have witnessed sluggish world economic recovery, frequent turmoil and conflicts, and exacerbation of global issues, global problems. But China enjoys political and social stability, people's well-being, and thriving endeavors. China's GDP grew from 54 trillion yuan to 80 trillion yuan, ranking second in the world. China's contribution to world economic growth averaged just over 30%, ranking top in the world. And China has become a driver and anchor for world economic growth. The report stresses that the achievements of the past 5 years have touched every area and broken new ground. The changes in China of the past 5 years have been profound and fundamental. Those characterizations are accurate and powerful. They're also inspirational. First, the achievements have touched every area. Over the past 5 years, the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core, with great strategic foresight, vision, resolution, courage, and a sense of responsibility, advanced in a coordinated manner, reform, development, stability, domestic governance, party governance, diplomacy, and military. They have put forward a series of new ideas, new thinking, and new strategies, a series of major policies and important initiatives. We have advanced a series of major tasks and made remarkable achievements in the various areas. We have ushered in socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. Second, we have broken new ground. Over the past 5 years, the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core with great wisdom and vision formulated the five-sphere integrated plan and the four-pronged comprehensive strategy. We have deepened reform and advanced law-based governance across the board. There's been remarkable achievements in exercising full and strict governance of the party and solved many tough problems that were long on the agenda but never resolved, and accomplished many things that were wanted but never got done. Third, the changes have been profound. We have made all-out efforts to advance extensive and profound reform with many breakthroughs. A total of 1,500 reform measures have been rolled out, and there are breakthroughs in key areas and links. The main framework of reform in main areas have been put in place. Many reform outcomes have been codified or solidified through institutions. If we look at the history of reform both at home and abroad, such all-dimensional, wide-ranging, profound reform at one's own initiative is truly rare. Fourth, the changes have been fundamental. Over the past 5 years, there have been fundamental changes in the conduct of the party, of the government, and the social ethos. The outcome, the outlook of the party, of the country, and of the armed forces have experienced profound changes. Governance hinges on people's support. There's great unity among the party, greater morale of the armed forces, and the people are more proud. Socialism with Chinese characteristics is beaming with great vigor and vitality. The changes and achievements of the past 5 years, if put in the context of the history of our party and nation, if we put into the history of mankind, are truly remarkable. Over the past 5 years, our party has been able to advance the reform, major reform, and achieve such great outcomes, most fundamentally because we have the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core, because we have the guidance of Xi Jinping's thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for an era, and because we have General Secretary Xi as the core of the party, leader of the people, and commander of the army. We We're convinced that with the able leadership of the central leadership, with Comrade Xi Jinping at the core, we will be able to realize the Chinese dream of great national renewal. Now I'll give the floor to Mr. Leng Rong.
Friends from the press, good morning. I will now give you a briefing about the interpretations and my personal observations about the two concepts, New Era and the principal contradiction facing Chinese society in the report. The report of the 19th Party Congress states that with decades of hard work, socialism with Chinese characteristics has crossed the threshold into a new era, which is a new historic juncture in China's development. And this important political assessment, which is a major highlight of the report, runs through all chapters of the document. The new era was ushered in the 18th Party Congress. The 19th Party Congress has established its guiding thought and basic policy, put forth the party's historical mission for the new era, drawn up the grand blueprint, made the strategic arrangement, and set out the new requirements for party building in the new era. The term New Era carries rich implications, which are summarized into 5 points in the report. First, this will be an era of building on past success to further advance our cause and continuing in a new historical context to strive for the success of socialism with Chinese characteristics. My understanding is that this paragraph answers the question of what banner China must hold and what path we must follow in the new era. Second, this will be an era of securing a decisive victory in building a moderately prosperous society in all respects and moving on to all-out efforts to build a great modern socialist country. This paragraph answers the question of what historical mission we must fulfill and what strategic arrangements we must make in the new era. Third, this will be an era for the Chinese people of all ethnic groups to work together and create a better life for themselves and ultimately achieve common prosperity for everyone. This paragraph answers the question of what development vision we must uphold and what purpose we must achieve through development in the new era. Fourth, this will be an era for all of us, the sons and daughters of the Chinese nation, to strive with one heart to realize the Chinese dream of national rejuvenation. This paragraph answers the question of what state of mind we need and what grand objective we must accomplish in the new era. Fifth, this will be an era that sees China moving closer to center stage and making greater contributions to mankind. Well, this paragraph answers the question of what China's position in the world is and what contribution it makes to the human society in the new era. The new era of socialism with Chinese characteristics carries tremendous importance. The Chinese nation has achieved a great leap forward, which is summarized in 3 points in the report. As socialism with Chinese characteristics enters a new era, the principal contradiction facing Chinese society has evolved. What we now face is the contradiction between unbalanced and inadequate development and the people's ever-growing needs for a better life. This assessment is based on solid grounds. The concept of principal contradiction facing Chinese society was first introduced during the 8th Party Congress in 1956. After the launch of reform and opening up, it was summarized as the contradiction between people's ever-growing material and cultural needs and backward social production. Well, today, more than 60 years after the 8th Party Congress and nearly 4 decades after the beginning of reform and opening up, the principal contradiction facing Chinese society has evolved in both people's needs and social production. In terms of people's needs, as we will soon complete the building of a moderately prosperous society in all respects, the needs of the people for a better life are getting increasingly diverse and broad-based. Material and cultural needs alone can no longer reflect the changing needs of the people. In terms of social production, China's overall productive forces have significantly improved, and China leads the world in many areas of production capacity. The expression of backward social production is no longer consistent with China's reality. From material and cultural needs to the needs for a better life, and from backward social production to unbalanced and inadequate development, the changes in concepts have reflected the tremendous progress of the Chinese society, the development needs in the current stage, and the key requirements for advancing the course of the party and the country. While economic development will remain our central task, more emphasis will be placed on pursuing all-round development in the new era. The evolution of the principal contradiction facing Chinese society represents a historic shift that will affect the whole landscape and create many new demands for the work of the party and the country. We need to fully understand this. At the same time, we must recognize that the evolution of the principal contradiction facing Chinese society does not change our assessment that China is still in the primary stage of socialism. Thank you. And I'll give the floor to Mr. Wang Xiaohui. Friends from the press, good morning. Just now, Director Yuan Shuhong said, since the 18th Party Congress, we have made a lot of historical achievements. I think one of the greatest achievements is that the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era has been initiated, which is a result of tireless exploration by our party. The report of the 19th Party Congress and the amendments to the party constitution adopted at the 19th Party Congress have established the thought as a guide to action for the party. This is a major highlight and historic contribution of the 19th Party Congress. I want to stress the following 4 points. First, all theories belong to their times. Only by putting the theory in a historical context can we understand the value and the significance of the theory. Socialism with Chinese characteristics has entered a new era. This is the new historical context of China's development, and also the historical background of the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. It is for this reason that we call it Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. In other words, it is the profound changes in domestic and international situations and the rapid progress made in all areas of our endeavors in the new era that have given birth to Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. This thought has creatively answered the new questions that have emerged in our practice and in our era. That is, what kind of socialism with Chinese characteristics we need to develop and uphold in the new era, and how to do it. There is actually a clear logical link between the era we live in, the practice we make, and the theory that has been proposed. The new era raises a new question. The new question calls for a new theory, and the new theory provides a guide for our new practice. Second, upholding and developing socialism with Chinese characteristics is the salient feature of all the theories and practices of a party since the beginning of reform and opening up, and also the salient feature of the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. All the explorations made by the party in theory and practice since reform and opening up have been conducted around this theme. The thought answers the question of overarching objectives, tasks, plan and a strategy for upholding and developing socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era, the direction, model, and driving force of development, and the strategic steps and political guarantees. The thought has enriched the concept of socialism with Chinese characteristics and provided a theoretical guide for upholding and developing socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era. The report has summarized these innovative ideas and views as 8 points we must be clear about and 14 points we must adhere to. Third, the thought is a crystallization of the practice of the whole party, but its main initiator is Comrade Xi Jinping. Comrade Xi Jinping has made extraordinary theoretical contribution to the initiation of this theory. And in leading the party and the country, Comrade Xi Jinping, with the pertinent insight of Marxist clear sense of mission and a strong commitment, has put forward a range of new ideas, new strategies, and new visions. And he has made critical contribution to the initiation of this theory, of this thought. And also, I think the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era has made the following historic contributions. First, it has opened a new ground for Marxism and achieved another leap forward in the combination of the basic principles of Marxism with the actual conditions of China. Second, it has opened a new ground for socialism with Chinese characteristics and reviewed the essential features, laws, and pathways for developing socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era. Third, it has opened a new ground for state governance. Under the guide of this thought, the party has rallied the people of the country in promoting a historical transformation in the cause of the party and the country. Fourth, it has opened a new ground for self-supervision and self-governance of the party. Following this thought, the party has strengthened self-governance in all respects with firm determination and unprecedented intensity, bringing about a profound shift from loose discipline to tight regulations. I believe as time passes by, the theoretical importance of the thought will be fully reviewed. Thank you.
Now I'll give the floor to Mr. Yang Weimin. Ladies and gentlemen, friends from the media, good morning. It's my great pleasure to meet with you again. Let me share with you the understanding of the new objectives. To formulate development strategies based on development stage and have hard work for one generation after another is an important piece of experience of our party's governance. The period between the 19th and 20th National Congress is the period in which the time frames of the two centenary goals converge. So the 19th Party Congress has identified the priorities in achieving the first centenary goal. It has also made strategic plans for achieving the second centenary goal. First, the Congress identified the priority of securing a decisive victory in building a moderately prosperous society. In the next 3 years, we will achieve that goal, and the next 3 years will see a decisive victory of our work on this front. We need to take tough steps to forestall and diffuse major risks, carry out targeted poverty alleviation, and prevent and control pollution, which represent the bottom line or important hallmarks of finishing the building of a moderately prosperous society. By identifying these three major tasks, it will help their size to have a keen understanding of the basic requirements, priorities, and challenges of this task. And the moderately prosperous society that we build will win the endorsement of the people and stand the test of history. Second, it identified the goal of building a modern socialist country in every dimension and the two-step approach. After 2020, the theme of socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era will be building a modern socialist country in every dimension. So the first part of the four-pronged comprehensive strategy will be to build a modern socialist country in every dimension. So this will help to keep the continuity of this four-pronged comprehensive strategy. The report also identified a two-step arrangement for achieving this goal. The significance of that lies in, first, it sets out the timetable and roadmap for our efforts. In the early days of reform and opening up, we wrote out the three-step approach in achieving socialist modernization. The first two steps have been achieved ahead of schedule. The 16th Party Congress put forth the goal of building a moderately prosperous society in all respects, and this goal will be achieved in the next 3 years. So from 2021 to 2050, we'll see a two-stage plan. With that, we'll have a complete timetable and roadmap for socialist modernization drive after reform and opening up. So the first stage starts from the early days of reform and opening up to 1990. The work was to ensure people's basic needs are met. The second stage, from 1991 to 2000, the focus was to make sure people's lives are generally decent. The third stage, from 2001 to 2020, the focus was to finish building a moderately prosperous society. And the fourth stage, from 2021 to 2035, we will basically realize socialist modernization. And the last stage, from 2036 to 2050, we will develop China into a great modern socialist country that is prosperous, strong, democratic, culturally advanced, harmonious, and beautiful. So we have a complete five-stage plan. Second, it moved the goal of achieving socialist modernization 15 years ahead. In the past, the goal was by the mid of this century, and the 19th National Congress put forth that we will achieve that goal by 2035, 15 years before that previous goal. This shows that, on the one hand, the achievements have gone far beyond our expectations. It also shows that we have huge potential in future development, and the trend has not changed. We have confidence in achieving that goal by 2035. It will also mobilize the whole nation to work hard towards that goal. Third, the characterization for the second centenary goal is more complete. So the original goal was that when the People's Republic celebrates its centenary, we'll build a modern socialist country that is prosperous, strong, democratic, harmonious, and culturally advanced. In the report of the 19th Party Congress, there are two minor changes. First, it added the adjective beautiful. That is in line with the five-sphere integrated plan. This is important part of our efforts. Another change is that we have changed the country to a great country that has enhanced the requirement for achieving the second centenary goal. Fourth, there is no longer the goal of doubling our GDP. In the two-step approach, there is no such a goal. The main contradiction of the Chinese society has evolved. The economic development has shifted to a stage of high quality. The lack of production capacity is no longer the most acute problem of our economic development. The most acute problem is the not that high quality of development. At this stage, it's not that we don't pay attention to the growth rate, but more importantly, we need to have greater quality, efficiency, and drivers to achieve growth. It's not simple sole emphasis on the growth rate. We need to transform growth drivers and increase efficiency and address the inadequate and unbalanced development. Not setting a goal for doubling the GDP will help us to follow through the new development approach and advance the development of the party and country. Now I'll give the floor to Mr. Jiang Jinquan.
Friends from the media, good morning. I would like to focus on the general requirements of the party building for a new era. The report delivered at the 19th CPC National Congress has summarized the historic achievements made in the party building over the past 5 years and pointed out that we have achieved remarkable outcomes ensuring full and strict governance of the party. We have acted with courage to confront major risks and tests facing the party, to address prominent problems within the party itself. With firm resolve, we have tightened discipline and improved party conduct, fought corruption and punished wrongdoing, and removed serious potential dangers in the party and the country. As a result, both the intra-party political atmosphere and the political ecosystem of the party have improved markedly. The party's ability to innovate, power to unite, and energy to fight have all been significantly strengthened. Party solidarity and unity have been reinforced, and our engagement with the people has been greatly improved. Revolutionary tempering has made our party stronger, and it now radiates with great vitality. With this, efforts to develop the cause of the party and the country have gained a strong political underpinning. It's fair to say that the historic transformation of the party is the fundamental reason for the historic achievements made in the cause of the party and the country. The report is fully characterized as a political one, and its most prominent feature is stressing enhancing the party's leadership and strengthening party building throughout the report. And this has become the outline and soul of the report. A major contribution of the report in the party building is that in light of the new requirements for a new era, the understanding of the laws on party building has been deepened, and general requirements for party building in the new era have been put forward. The general requirements include 6 aspects. First, we take upholding and strengthening overall party leadership as the principle, ensure that party exercises effective self-supervision and practices self-governance in every aspect, take strengthening the party's long-term governance capacity and its advanced nature and purity as the main thrust, guided by enhancing the party's political building, make all-round efforts to see the party's political building enhanced, theory strengthened, organizations consolidated, conduct improved, and discipline enforced, with institution building incorporated into every aspect of party building. Step up efforts to combat corruption, meet the requirements of improving the efficacy of party building, and fulfill the goal of building the party into a vibrant Marxist governing party that is always at the forefront of the times, enjoys the wholehearted support of the party, has the courage to reform itself, and is able to withstand all tests. This has provided a clear direction for party building in the new era. I think it is particularly noteworthy that this is the first time to include political party building in the overall plan of party building and stress that enhancing political party building needs to be taken as the overarching principle. This is a major innovation of a Marxist party's theory on party building. It is of fundamental importance to the party. A political party represents the interests of a particular class and its organization with a shared political guiding program, line, and goal. The political nature is the number one nature of a party, and political building is an inherent requirement for party building. In the new overall plan of party building, political party building is the most important and represents the leading and core aspect. It determines the direction and effectiveness of party building. Emphasis on the party's theory, organization, conduct, and discipline is finally based on its political building. Without it, party building in other aspects would have been in vain. I think this is the biggest innovation in the report. To ensure strict party self-governance, the report has set out 8 key tasks. In the interest of time, I will only list 2 of them. First, putting political party building first. And I have briefed the significance of this aspect. The report has laid out 4 tasks. The primary task of political party building is to ensure that the whole party upholds the authority and centralize the unified leadership of the Central Committee. Second, ensure that intra-party political activities are carried out in earnest. Party members must act in strict accordance with the Code of Conduct for intra-party political life under new circumstances. Improve and implement the systems of democratic centralism and earnestly carry out criticism and self-criticism. Third, develop a positive and healthy intra-party political culture and foster values such as loyalty, honesty, impartiality, a realistic approach, and integrity. These words are values of communists of China. Fourth, strengthen party consciousness. All party members, especially senior officials, need to raise their political awareness and political ability. I believe these 4 tasks constitute the basic content of political party building. It's fair to say that they are the framework of political party building for a new era. This is my understanding. Second, arming the whole party with Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. As arranged by the 19th Party Congress, we will launch a campaign on the theme of staying true to our founding mission among all party members, especially officials at and above the county and director level. This is actually to ensure that all party members will study and implement Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. The purpose is that all party members will arm themselves with this thought and guide their work with the important thought. Now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Xiao Pei. Comrades, friends, good morning. I wish to share with you my thoughts of studying Part 13 of the report to the 19th Party Congress, exercising strict governance over the party and improving the party's ability to govern and lead. The report to the 19th Party Congress has 32,000 words, and Part 13 has over 4,100 words, taking up more than 1/8 of the total report, from which you can tell how much weight this part carries. This part has a preface and lays out 8 tasks, each of which represents a solemn commitment made by our party to the people on exercising strict self-governance of the party. On the just concluded first plenum of the 19th Party Congress, General Secretary Xi Jinping stressed once again that exercising strict self-governance is a never-ending journey. We must have no let-up in doing so, and we must eliminate all tumors that damage the health of our party and promote integrity and honesty within our party. This has once again shows that the CPC Central Committee, with Comrade Xi Jinping as the core, has a strong will and a firm position to exercise strict self-governance, and they take a strong leadership in doing so. And I would like to share with you my thoughts of studying this part. First, we need to uphold the authority of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping as the core and its unified leadership, and promote political party building. Over the past 5 years, under the leadership of the CPC Central Committee, the Central Commission on Discipline Inspection investigated into 292 officials administered by Central Organization Department, including Li Chuncheng and Sun Zhengcai. Almost all of them violated political disciplines, and most of them have political problems and behaviors of corruption. Therefore, the report has incorporated political party building into the overall plan of party building. This is highly relevant. So the whole party, all party members must maintain political integrity, think in big picture terms, follow the leadership core, and keep in alignment, ensure intra-party political activities are carried out in earnest to improve the political ecosystem and uphold the authority of the CPC Central Committee. Second, we need to turn the 8-point decision on improving party and government conduct into voluntary actions and unremittingly improve the party's conduct. Over the past 5 years, 189,000 cases of violating the 8-point decision have been investigated, and 256,000 officials held accountable. Just concluded National Day holiday of China, the CCDI released 160 cases of 8-point decision violation on its website. General Secretary Xi Jinping has always emphasized that we need to have the perseverance to hammer away at every task, never allow violations of such 8-point decision relapse, so as to build the popular and political foundation for the governance of the party. Third, we need to comprehensively strengthen party discipline and improve party conduct. The report stresses that we need to focus on strengthening the enforcement of political and organizational discipline and use this to prompt stricter observance of discipline on upholding integrity, on interacting with the people, and regarding work and life. We need to give top priority to ensuring compliance with party discipline, conduct 4 forms of oversight over discipline compliance, so that party officials will strengthen their political, disciplinary, and moral focus and be impervious to corruption. Fourth, we need to remain as firm as a rock in our resolve and secure a sweeping victory in the fight against corruption. According to the report of the 19th Party Congress, the fight against corruption remains grave and complex. And in fighting corruption, there should be no no-go zones, no ground should be left unturned, and no tolerance shown for corruption. We must impose tight constraints, maintain a tough stance, and a long-term deterrence, punish both those who take bribes and those who offer them. For those senior officials who are in important positions and may still be promoted, if they do not show any restraint, even when the people have made strong opinions against them, then they must be investigated and held accountable. In particular, we must eliminate interest groups with intertwined political problems and corruption to strengthen deterrence, so that exercising strict self-governance can be put to the primary level. Just to think about how many director-level officials have been investigated. Actually, we have investigated and give punishment to 63 director-level officials and 246,000 county and township-level officials, including 278,000 village-level officials. All our work is to let the ordinary people feel our firm resolve to fight corruption. And we have also stepped up effort to hunt fugitives abroad. You can see the total number of fugitives abroad is on the decrease. In 2014, the number was 101, and then the number was reduced to 31 in 2015, and 19 to 2006. And this year, there are only 4 fugitive officials abroad. With this hard work, we have stepped up great efforts to hunt and punish those fugitives abroad. So you can see such a remarkable decrease in the number of fugitives abroad. General Secretary Xi has emphasized, as long as there's one fugitive abroad, our campaign, our efforts will never stop. Therefore, we will continue to work hard to strengthen deterrence so officials dare not be corrupt, strengthen the cage of institutions so they are unable to be corrupt, and we will raise the vigilance so that they will have no desire to commit corruption. Fifth, we need to improve party and state oversight systems and the party's ability to purify itself. The ultimate goal for exercising strict governance over the party is to explore an effective way of self-supervision for the party's long-term governance. This is the ultimate goal for exercising strict governance. So we must integrate intra-party oversight with public oversight, make disciplinary inspections cut like a blade through corruption and misconduct, and do more inspections in cities and counties.
同时，我们还要根据19大的安排，深化国家。
In particular, we need to follow through on the decision made by the 19th CPC National Congress, conduct trial reform of the national supervision system throughout the country,
派驻监督，
and establish supervisory commissions at provincial, city, and county levels, establish a national supervision commission to cover all areas of the supervision work and improve the supervision system. Thank you.
我们进入提问环节。
Now the floor is open.
开始提问吧。提问之前还是先通报一下。
Please identify yourself before raising your
今天这场
question.
发布会啊，专题新闻发布会，大家提问呢，围绕着19大报告解读啊，来提，开提问吧。
Please focus on the interpretation of
第
the
一排，
report.
出现这个问题是不是？
我是中央电视台中国国际电视台的记者，我想请问的是冷荣主任，您刚才啊也说到了新时代的内涵和重大意义，说明现在中国的发展已经进入到了一个新的历史方位。那能不能够进一步给我们解释一下这个重大的政治论断的依据是什么？
With CCTV.
谢谢。
My question is for Mr. Leng Rong. Just now you explained the meaning and significance of the new era, which show that China's development has entered a new historic juncture. I want to dig further into that. I want to ask, what is the basis for this important political judgment?
我觉得呢，报告所说的这个中国特色社会主义啊，
I
进入
think
新
the
时代啊，
report
是它的依据啊。
reference to the point that socialism with Chinese characteristics has entered new era. This can be understood from 6 angles. First, new starting point, new stage. Since the 18th Party Congress, building on the basis of long-term and hard efforts, China has achieved major progress in development. The look of the party and the country has undergone historic transformation. Therefore, China is now at a new historic starting point for development, and socialism with Chinese characteristics has also entered a new stage. Second, the update in the guiding thought of the party. Since the 18th Party Congress, the party has achieved the latest outcome in adapting Marxism to the Chinese context, which has a clear mark of the times. That is the Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era. Third, the new changes in the principal contradiction facing the Chinese society, and that is an important sign of the socialism with Chinese characteristics entering a new era. Fourth, new journey for fully building a moderately, for fully building a modern socialist country. In the next 5 years, it will be a period when the time frames for the 2 centenary goals converge after completing the building of a moderate and prosperous society in all respects. In 2020, we will work for the 2nd centenary goal. Fifth, a new historic mission of the party. The report has stated that in the new era we need to carry out a great struggle, build a great project, advance great cause, and realize great dream. I think this fully demonstrates the strong sense of mission of contemporary communists in China. Sixth, the new requirements for party building. The report states and stresses that there should be a new air and a new results in party building in the new era. And also want to stress that the term new era referred to in the report means the new era for socialism with Chinese characteristics, and this is in relation to the development of the course of the party and the country. And this is the very perspective we need to take in understanding the concept new era. Thank you.
左区，来，左区第5排，第2位，对，第5排，对，对。
谢谢主持人。日本经济新闻社的记者，我想提问的是经济方面的。习主席在19大报告中指出，中国经济已由高速增长阶段 转向高质量发展阶段。这是否意味着今后将不再追求高增长？增长率的具体目标是大概多少？还有一个问题，中国特色社会主义已经进入新时代，在此背景下，市场机制和国有企业将各自发挥哪些作用？谢谢。
这个问题是不是请杨主任？
Well, with Nikkei News, my question is about China's economy. In the report, President Xi said that China's economy has been transitioning from a phase of rapid growth to a stage of high-quality development. Does that mean that going forward, high growth rate will not be a priority for China's economy? And what will be the approximate growth rate for the economy going forward? And secondly, the socialism with Chinese characteristics has entered a new era. In this context, what will be the respective roles of market mechanisms and state-owned enterprises? Thank you.
这个问题，我来做个回答。
Let me answer your question.
其实不是这个19大以后我们不追求
Well, it's not that after the 19th Party Congress we don't pursue high-speed growth. Since the 18th Party Congress, the high-speed growth is not the sole priority. Has not been the sole priority. Over the past 5 years, the General Secretary has made a major assessment that the Chinese economy has entered a new normal, and its feature, first and foremost, is that it has shifted gears from high-speed growth to a medium-high growth rate. So in setting the target, there was no one above 7.5%.
然后再以后定立目标都是在逐步地向下调
整。The targets have been revised down, and last year was 6.5%. The basic approach needs to be improved in growing the economy, in line with the requirement of the 19th Party Congress. First and foremost, we need to work hard to pursue high-quality development. As General Secretary Xi said in the report, China's economy has been transitioning from a phase of rapid growth to a stage of high-quality development, and that is consistent with the new normal stage. It's an accurate characterization of China's reality. The most acute problem is not the lack of production capacity. Our production volume of over 220 goods or products rank top in the world, and we need to cut capacity. The main problem is insufficient quality. Now, in keeping with the assessment that the socialism with Chinese features has entered a new era, and there is evolving of the main contradiction facing Chinese society. Pursuing high-quality development is an inherent requirement of turning China into a modern socialist country in every dimension. By a modern country, we mean we need to have high-quality growth instead of just a high growth speed. Second, we need to accomplish 3 major tasks. In the report, the General Secretary said that we're not at a pivotal stage for transforming our growth model, improving our economic structure, and fostering new drivers of growth, which means that those are the priorities for our work going forward. Now, the Chinese economy is making steady progress and grew by 6.2% 9% in the first 3 quarters, 2 percentage points higher than the same period last year. But the foundation is not solid enough, and we still face challenges. In other words, we still need to transform our growth model, improve our economic structure, and foster new drivers of growth, and that takes time. Third, we need to develop a modernized economy. That is the overarching plan for our work going forward. We need to put quality first, give priority to performance, and pursue supply-side structural reform as our main task. We need to work hard for better quality, higher efficiency, and more robust drivers of economic growth. And we need to promote coordinated development of the real economy with technological innovation, modern finance, and human resources. There needs to be synchronized progress on those 4 fronts. And we need to endeavor to develop an economy with more effective market mechanism, dynamic micro entities, and sound macro regulation. And on your second question, playing the role of the market and the state-owned enterprises, the report says that we must concentrate on improving the system of property rights and market-based allocation of factors of production. And that is our line of work going forward. It is of great significance for deepening supply-side structural reform, improving socialist market economy system, and promoting sound economic development. It's also in response to the thorny issues of economic institutional reform. We will step up our reform efforts on market-based reform and of the SOEs. Thank you.
坐下。哎，我们看看是右区呗，右区那边第5排那位女士，对，右区，对，没错。
谢谢，我是澳门澳亚卫视澳亚网的记者。然后我们注意到，这就是纪委与监察委员会合署办公后，是既执纪又执法。然后这是否意味着纪委的权力进一步扩大？谢谢。
With MATV, we have noticed that the discipline inspection commissions and supervisory commissions will share offices and work together in the future, responsible for enforcing both the disciplines and the law. Does it mean that the power of the discipline inspection commissions will be further expanded? Thank you.
小书记，请你回答一下。
我想，这好像必须明确的先给你回答，这绝不意味着纪委和监委的权力扩大，
It does not mean the
只能意味
furthering
着
of
纪委和
their
监委的
powers.
责任大了，
It does
担当要
mean
更大。
that they have greater responsibility in this area.
所以，监察体制改革，3.2万字的报告，用
So
了
you can see
99个字。
the report has assigned 9,000 words.
治党治国治军呐，方方面面。
The report has assigned 99 words in
监察
the
体制改革
30,000 word
是以习
report
近平
in the
同志为
reform
核心
of
的
the
党
national supervision
推
system.
出的一项重大的政治体
The
制。
reform of the supervision system is a major political
我理解。
reform laid out
学习
by
这个报
the
告里
CPC
面
Central
还有这么
Committee
4
led
个关
by
键
with
词得抓
General
住。
Secretary Xi Jinping as the core.
第一
I
个，
think there are 3 key
合
words.
署办公。
First, sharing offices and working together.
1993年，中国共产党
In
就做
1993,
出了一个形势判断，
the CPC
叫反腐败斗争形势
stated that the fight against the corruption was still severe.
2013年4月，
In April 2013,
在听取巡视工作5年规划的时候，
General Secretary Xi, when hearing about the report about the inspection work,
形势依然严峻
said
复杂，
that the fight against the corruption was still serious
加上
and
复杂，
complex.
是对当前反腐败斗争形势一语中的的精准概括。
And I believe he has made a very precise and to-the-point judgment about the fight against the corruption.
依据那个形势，党中央作出决
In
策，
1993,
中央纪委
the
和
CPC
监察
Central
部
Committee
合署办
decided that the Central Commission on Discipline Inspection and the Ministry of Supervision share offices and worked together
集合起来，
so as to concentrate the forces fighting corruption together.
党的纪律检
The
查
CCDI
和行
is
政监察
responsible for the
两项职责
disciplinary
由
inspection
中央纪委
and
对党中
administrative
央全
supervision,
面负
these
责
two functions, and answers to the CPC Central Committee. This is a decision made in 1993.
还是基于党中央对形势的判断。
And also, in light of the current situation, General Secretary Xi has pointed out in the report that the two
监察委员会
agencies need to share office and work together.
24年历史过去了，实践
See,
历史
24 years have passed. Practices and history have fully shown that the CPC Central Committee has made a wise and correct decision in sharing offices
必
and
须把
working
拳头
together.
攥起来。
We must concentrate the forces fighting corruption instead of scattering those forces.
斗争的统一。
This reform is to enhance the unified leadership of the party in fighting corruption
国家执法有机
so that
贯通起来，
discipline enforcement and law enforcement will be coordinated and unified to both prevent corruption
反贪
and enforce
反毒力量
anti-corruption
整合
law
起来，攥成
to
拳头。
unify the forces
改
in
革的本质是
enforcing
组织和制
disciplines and in enforcing laws.
组织创新就是成
I
立国
believe
家监察委员会。
They have made
这
this
是什么？
organizational
总书记讲，
innovation
这
to
就是
establish
中
the
国的反腐
National
败机构。
Supervision Commission, which
制度
is
创新
responsible
就是
for
制定
prevention
国
and
家监
fighting
察委
corruption in
这是
China.
中国
This
的
is an
反腐
organizational and institutional innovation in fighting corruption in China.
第二个关键词，
The second key word I'd like to say is
这回总书记
responsibilities and
在报告中强调
functions.
要
General
依法
Secretary Xi
赋
has
予
pointed out in the
检察
report
及监察
that we
机
need
关监察
to
机
give
关
supervisory
职
commissions
责权限
responsibilities, powers, and means of investigation according to law.
有着深刻而丰富的内涵，
These sentences
加强党对反腐败工
have
作
their
统一领导，
particular
要
meaning.
实现对所有行使公权力的公职
We
人
need to
员
ensure
监
that
察全覆
supervision
盖，
covers everyone in the public sector who
正在
exercises
制定
public
的
power.
起草的国家监察法
The National Supervision Law, which is still being drafted, will authorize the Supervision Commission the responsibilities of supervision, investigation, and punishment.
调查手。
The third key word is means of investigation.
那么去年，全国人大常委
Last
会
year, the
授权
NPC
在
Standing
北
Committee
京、
authorized
山西、
Beijing,
浙江
Shanxi,
3个
and
地方
Zhejiang
开展监察体制改革的
to
试点
carry out
赋予
pilot
12项
reforms
调查
of
措施
the supervision
都
system
没有扩大权，
network.
都是实践中实际使用，又比较成熟。
All the 12 investigation means have been given to them without further
就是现
expansion.
在现
All
行
of
的
them
行
have
政
been
监察
actually
法
in
中
use,
规定的监察
very
机关
mature.
调查
The first
权限。
is the
那就
means
现在
of
规定的是
investigation
查
used
询
in the procuratorate
还规
agencies,
定了有
including
复
inquiry,
制、冻
copying,
结、扣
freezing,
押、封
detention,
存
and
等
seizure.
等这些手段。那未来呢？我们要
In the future,
现在公布的全国人大去年的这个试点决定看，
the
把
means
它修
of
改完善为
investigation will be
查
improved
询手段、冻
and
结手段、
expanded to
调取、
inquiry, freezing,
封存、
transferring,
查封、
seizure,
扣押、
detention,
勘验、
inquisition, examination, and authentication.
第二呢，就是把
Second,
纪委实际使
those means of investigation used by the discipline inspection commissions like interview,
用的
query,
调查措施呢，把它法定为职责权。
will be identified as statutory means of investigation.
这样呢，来完善我们的调查手段。
So as to further improve the means of investigation that we
法
have
律最
now.
关心一个问题：技术侦查怎么办？技术侦
As
查
for
仍然按
technical
照现有
investigation,
由严格的审批程序决定以后，交
supervision
有关
agencies
部门
must follow
来实
strict
施。监
procedures
委不重复。
and then pass on to relevant agencies to enforce.
三个
Supervision
第四个关键词
agencies
留置
will not have duplicate powers with them.
有一个新的词，留置
Fourth,
两规。
that is detention,
过去
the practice of
规啊，中国
两规
检查
or
检查工作条例
cooperating with questioning as a designated place and at a designated time will be replaced by detention.
来代替两规。总书记啊，在2013年1月
In January 2013, General Secretary Xi attended the second plenum of the 18th
要用法治思维、
meeting of
法
the
治方式
CCDI
惩治腐
that
败
we need to investigate and punish
法治思维、法治方式。
law violations with a law-based mentality and a law-based means of investigation. That is why we are now drafting the law on national supervision. But Supervision Commission is not a judiciary agency. Its functions are only investigation, supervision, and
所
punishment.
涉及的重大职务犯罪，也不同于一般的
But
刑事犯罪。
The crimes conducted at their official posts are not equivalent to all kinds of criminal cases. So investigation should not be carried out in an equivalent way to criminal investigation.
对反腐败、反贪污、贿赂这种犯罪的违法犯罪的调查。
Crimes of corruption and graft should not use the same investigation means as other criminal
将对
cases.
留置的
Therefore, the national supervision law will have strict restrictions on the procedures of approval, conditions of usage, and the term of detention to be used for
调
such
查过程的
cases.
安全、医疗保障
And they will have specific provisions on the safety and medical conditions to be provided for those detained. I think this will make our work more law-based. Thank you.
中区第4排这边那个李色穿白衣服那个，对的，有没错？
谢谢主持人，我是凤凰卫视、凤凰网的记者。我这个问题是想请问一下，因为我们也注意到哈，中共的指导思想，其中有一些是以党的领导人命名的，那么有些是没有。请问一下各位发言人怎么看？谢谢。
With Phoenix TV, I have noticed that among the guiding principles of the party, some carry the name of relevant party leader and some don't. What is your view on that?
王部长是吗？请您回答一下。
好，我愿意回答你的问题。
Well, let me answer your question.
这实际上啊，用党的领袖
And as a matter of fact, to name the party theory
或者指导思想
and a guiding thought with the name of the leader is a
一个通行的做法。
common practice in international communist movements.
马克思主义，
For example,
列宁主义。
Marxism,
我们
Leninism,
国家有
and in
毛泽东思想。
our country we have Mao Zedong thought, Deng Xiaoping theory.
实际上，在西方思想理论界，
And actually in the
用
Western
主要创立者的
theoretical
名
circles
字来命名
to
某
name
种理论，也
a
是
theory
非常
with the
通常
name of its main initiator is also a
刚才我讲到，
common practice.
习近平新时代
As I said in the opening
思想
statement,
是全
the
党
Xi Jinping
治法
thought
结晶，
on socialism with Chinese characteristics for the new era is a crystallization of the collective wisdom of the whole party and a summary of the practical experience of the party and the people. But its main initiator is Comrade Xi Jinping, and he has made an important contribution and played an important role in the initiation of this theory. So we believe that he deserves to have his name attached to this theory, and also shows the maturity and the confidence in the party's theory. Thank you.
右区第二排，第二位男士，对，没错。
谢谢主持人，我是中国日报社的记者。我们注意到，在19大报告中明确指出，要建立中央全面依法治国领导小组。那么，请问，做出这样重大的制度设计是出于哪些方面的考虑？谢谢。
With China Daily, the report to the 19th Party Congress calls for the forming of a central leading group for advancing law-based government in all areas. What is the consideration behind such an important decision?
谢谢你的提问。
Thank you.
我个人理解啊，
My
这
understanding
个党的
is
19大
that
报告之所以要明确提出
the
成立中央
report says that
全面依法
we
治国
need
领
to
导小组
formulate a central leading group for advancing law-based governance in all areas because of the following
就是中国共
considerations.
产党作为
First,
对
the Communist
全
Party
面
of
依法治国
China, as the governing party, is crucial to advancing law-based governance in all areas. The party's leadership is the most intrinsic feature of socialism with Chinese features and the most fundamental guarantee of socialist rule of law with Chinese features. We need to implement the party's leadership in the whole process and all aspects
保
of
证执法
law-based governance.
支持司法
We need to make sure that the party leads legislation, ensures enforcement, supports the judiciary, and takes the lead to abide by the law. So to do that, there is a pressing need to
加强对
set up a central leading group in this regard to step up the unified
全面依
leadership
法治国是一项
of the party.
是一项涉及面十分广泛的任务。
Second,
它涉及到
advancing law-based governance in all areas is
政治建
a
设、文化
systemic
建设、社
project
会建设、生
involving
态文明建设。
economic, political,
国防、
cultural,
经济
social,
建设
and ecological development, and the
涉及到
building of the armed
改革
forces
发
and
展
of the
稳定、
party. It
内政外交
involves
国防、
reform, development,
适当治理。
stability, domestic governance,
这么大的一
diplomacy,
个
national
范围
defense,
这么宽的
and
面
party and military party
需要
governance
充
and
分发挥
governance of the military.
党总揽全
To
局
do that,
协调
we
各
must
方的
play
领导
the
成果
party's central role in
第三个
exercising
我
overall
理解
leadership
呢
and coordinating
全面依法
various
治国
sides.
它是一个
Third,
长期艰巨
advancing law-based governance in all areas is a
它改变的
long-term,
是人们的观念
arduous, and
改变的
complex
是人们的
task.
行为
It will change people's
我们讲
mindset and
全面依法治
conduct.
国从党的11届3中全会以来，特别是党的18大以来，取得了重大成绩。
The
我们
18th Party Congress,
中国
there
以
have been
建国以来
remarkable
65年的时间
achievements in
改革开
this
放以来
regard.
39年的时间，我们形成了中国特色社会主义法律
Over the
体
past decades, we have
系
put in
中国特色
place
社会
a
主义法治体
socialist
系取得重大成就，走过了西方国
law
家
system with Chinese
上百年
features,
乃至
and
几
we
百年，
traveled a journey in decades that took
但是还有不少的短板，
some other countries
还有不少的
centuries.
弱项。
But there are
比如
still
举个
some
很
weak
通俗的我们
points
身边的例子，
and inadequacies
大
in
家
this
在北京
regard.
感到还有不少人
And
闯红灯，
there are
啊，我
still
们记者朋友
people
也有可能
who would
啊闯红灯
jaywalk
是
and violate
习以为
the
常。
traffic rules.
当然，
They will
我
go
到
when
美
there's a
国
red
纽
light.
约到巴黎
And in
也有闯红
New York, in
啊
Paris,
没
there
有
are also such people,
灯。
but
闯红灯它
much
就是个违法行
smaller
为
in
啊，是个
number.
轻微违法
And this is a
所
violation
以
of the law
我
and of
们
the
要解
rules,
决法治建设中
albeit
存在的
a
很多
minor
问题
one. What I mean is that there are still
相对于
inadequacies in this
4个
regard,
全面的其他3个
and
全面，
compared with
全
the
面建成小康社
three
会，
areas, the other
全面
three
深化
areas
改
of the
革，全
four-pronged
面创新制度，
comprehensive strategy, the efforts in this regard are still relatively weak. So we still face formidable tasks in this regard that would require us to pay higher attention to that. To do that, we need to set up such a leading group to step up top-level design and promote coordinated progress. And fourth, in the drafting of the report, we have solicited views of the central government agencies and localities. Many have suggested setting up such a central leading group for advancing law-based governance in all areas to step up unified leadership of our efforts in this regard. So those are the considerations behind this decision. Thank you.
第一排有理是对，第一排。
谢谢主持人，我是中央人民广播电台央广网的记者。那我们注意到，很多干部现在都在关注19大报告中提出的建立干部激励机制和容错纠错机制，认为这样能够进一步提振干部队伍的士气。那么，想请发言人谈一谈对这一问题的看法，谢谢。
With China National Radio, the report to the 19th Party Congress proposes to set up incentives mechanisms for officials and also mechanisms to allow for and correct errors by officials. Many officials have noticed this proposal, thinking that it will help boost the morale of officials. Could you elaborate on this?
我们请江主任回答这个问题。
你这个问题提得很好。
You have raised a very good question.
提出要建立
In the report to the 19th Party Congress, it has been pointed out that we need to establish the mechanisms to allow for and address errors. Actually, this is to reaffirm the consistent requirements of General Secretary Xi.
在报告中提出这个，就是要进一步解决干部
And we aim to remove the misgivings of officials in their work in doing so. General Secretary Xi has stressed that we need to both exercise management over and give warm care to our officials. In addition to strict governance, we need to give them political incentives, working support, proper remuneration, and mental care to our officials, so as to give free rein to the enthusiasm, initiative, and creativity of the officials. Why we have put forward the establishment of such mechanisms? Actually, over the 18th Party Congress, we have strengthened self-governance to eliminate dereliction of duty among officials. But then some officials feel that they may possibly do less work so as to make fewer mistakes. That is why we have put forward the establishment of such mechanisms to incentivize our officials. Actually, General Secretary Xi has put forward 3 principles in such mechanisms. He has pointed out that we need to distinguish errors and mistakes done in promoting reform due to lack of experience from deliberate violations of disciplines and the laws. We need to distinguish errors and mistakes made in exploratory experiments on which there are no clear restrictions from willful and obstinate violations of laws and disciplines where clear prohibition is announced. And we need to distinguish unintentional fault made to promote development from violations of laws and disciplines for private interests. Then General Secretary Xi has further expounded this thought on the 6th plenum of the 18th CPC Central Committee. I think General Secretary Xi emphasized the 4 points in such mechanisms. First, whether officials are for public or for private interests. Second, whether mistakes are made because of objective or subjective reasons. Third, whether they can be tolerated by law and discipline or have violated them. Fourth, whether they are the result of collective decision-making or one-time individual behaviors. Then, with this criteria, we will know how to judge the mistakes and errors made by officials. Actually, only the first category can be allowed for and addressed. Those deliberate fault made will not be tolerated, and only faults made unintentionally will be tolerated. Not intentional mistakes. Third, after tolerating the mistakes and errors, we need to take actions to redress the mistakes. Officials who have made the mistakes should be candid and frank in owning up to the mistakes that they have made and take active actions to address them. In a word, officials need to follow the discipline and act with integrity. To exercise strict self-governance and to be proactive in our work and not contradictory, they are in dialectical unity. This is not to exercise undue caution in our work, but to fix the problem of dereliction of duty or malfeasance. Exercising strict governance should not be used as an excuse for dereliction of duty of some officials. Thank you.
第3排这位外国记者朋友 ，OK， 来这位对。
迪拜中安卫视 China Arab TV 记者提问。我想提问的对象是冷荣先生。冷先生，您刚才提到，中国社会主要矛盾的变化没有改变对社会主义初级阶段的基本国情的判断。那么究竟应该怎么样去理解社会主要矛盾的变化同社会主义初级阶段之间的关系？谢谢你。
With CATV, I have a question for Mr. Leng Rong. In your opening statement, you pointed out that the principal contradiction facing the Chinese society has evolved, but that does not change the assessment of the present stage of socialism in China, which is the primary stage of socialism. Now, my question is how to understand the correlation between the changing principal contradiction and the primary stage of socialism in China.
好，谢谢你这个问题啊，这确实是。
Thank you for your question. This is a theoretical question.
我觉得呢，要正确把握这个三者的
I think for the relationship between the evolution in the principal contradiction facing the Chinese society and the primary stage of socialism, it is important for us to understand the following 3 points. First, socialism or primary stage of socialism is the underdeveloped stage of socialism. So level of economic development is very important in this stage. But at the same time, we need to understand that the level of economic development is not the sole criteria determining whether we are in the primary stage of socialism. And the primary stage of socialism should also be viewed in connection with the overall level of social development. And this has been an understanding of the party all along. At the beginning of reform and opening up, Comrade Deng Xiaoping said that we need to stay committed to the central task of economic development, but economic development is not our sole task. And second, the primary stage of socialism is going to be a very long course of history. And over this long course of history, the principal contradiction facing the Chinese society will change with the progress of the Chinese society. Therefore, we need to have a good grasp of the ever-changing features of the country and address the problems and the contradictions in this ever-changing process. Thirdly, the evolution in the principal contradiction is a change that has taken place within the primary stage of socialism. It does not mean a change in this basic national condition of primary stage of socialism, and this is something we need to have a clear understanding. We need to stick to the theory of primary stage of socialism, stay committed to the central task of economic development, and at the same time pursue all-round development in all undertakings. So all in all, I think, as for the relationship between the two concepts, we need to have a clear grasp of the dialectics in the relationship between what has changed and what has not changed. Last question.
右区第一排第3位第4对，对，就是。
谢谢主持人，我是韩国金乡新闻社记者。今年7月，习近平主席在省部级主要领导干部专题研讨班开班式的讲话中说，过去的5年是很不平凡的5年。19大上，习主席强调，过去的5年是极不平凡的5年。 所以，能否介绍从很不平凡到极不平凡变化的原因？谢谢。
With the Kyungyong Shinmun of the ROK, in July this year, when addressing provincial and ministerial officials, General Secretary Xi described the past 5 years as remarkable. Well, at this 19th Party Congress, General Secretary Xi put it as truly remarkable. What has prompted the change?
我来回答这个问题。从你提出问题来讲，我非常佩服你。你确实是非常认真地研读了我们的19大报告。
Indeed, you have studied very carefully the report, and that's why you can see this minute change. Like you said,
习总书记在2次讲话当中
in the 2 addresses, General Secretary Xi used two different adjectives to describe the changes of the past 5 years. In the discussion and the drafting of the report, many said that over the past 5 years, despite the challenges, risks and problems within the party, we have worked hard to overcome those difficulties with the leadership of General Secretary Xi. We have solved many problems that were long on the agenda but never resolved, accomplished many things that were wanted but never got done. So they say that remarkable is not sufficient to reflect the changes. In the drafting of the report, we have many rounds of solicitation of ideas and views. And then the party, we had to solicit views twice, and each time thousands of suggestions or opinions have been put forward. At the 7th plenum of the 18th CPC Central Committee and the 19th Party Congress, we have had multiple revisions to the report. So there are revisions even after the report was delivered. In the drafting, we have leveraged the wisdom of the whole party through democratic consultation. Due to the limitation of time, we have come to the end of this press conference. I wish to thank the responsible officials for attending this press conference and thank the friends from the media and guests.
Well, you've been watching the final news conference of the 19th CPC National Congress, lasting just over 90 minutes. We heard from a panel of officials briefing the news media regarding the report delivered by General Secretary Xi Jinping last week, and just now answering questions from journalists. I'll brief you on what they discussed earlier. They emphasized the principal contradiction facing Chinese society has evolved. The government says the new contradiction is now between unbalanced and inadequate development and the Chinese people's ever-growing need for better lives. Looking ahead, the CPC will work to ensure socialist modernization by 2035. This is the first of two stages of development that the CPC has planned for the year 2020 to the middle of the 21st century. By then, China will develop into a great modern socialist country. There have been so-called historic shifts in the work of the CPC in the past 5 years as the party leads the world's second largest economy. China has contributed 30% to world economic growth despite sluggish global demand. The nation's domestic output has risen from 54 trillion yuan to 80 trillion yuan. More than 60 million people have also been lifted out of poverty during the past 5 years. Calling corruption the greatest threat to the party, officials said the fight against graft will never end. It also remains grave and complex. Officials said a national supervision law will be formulated in due time. Well, joining me in the studio are my guests, Mr. Lubell Chung and Einar Tengen, who have been watching the news conference along with all of you at home and me as well. Mr. Liu, you can start. What do you think were the highlights of the news conference?
I think in the first place is really the confidence that the spokespeople are really competent in the first place, so therefore they earn the confidence in constructing the Chinese economy and also to engage in the new political reform and institutional reform. And the other is that they understand very clearly what is really pointed out by the 19th Party Congress principle as how to shape China into a modern, prosperous society with clear roadmap and with clear timetable. And then, to strengthen the party's leadership, you require tougher supervision and stronger discipline. So that's also very much involved. So overall, I think it reflects a rejuvenation of the party's leadership, and also we notice there is a stronger professionalism that is really showing to the world.
Einar, you were taking a lot of notes during the news conference.
I want to condense them down. I mean, I split it into two parts, a kind of administrative and what I would call ideological. And on the administrative side, more accountability. That was what really struck me. Economics include social issues, so no longer is it just the economic agenda just said GDP. They're really talking about how it goes forward, and I think this is key to this kind of idea of what does this socialist society with Chinese characteristics means. It means no one's going to be left behind, and we were talking about that in terms of poverty. Balanced growth obviously is part of it. I think there's a renewed emphasis on going after the flies. The government has demonstrated very clearly that they're willing to go after tigers and that no one is safe. I mean, it doesn't matter if they came up under Xi Jinping or any other group. If they do not perform or they are corrupt, they will be pushed out. And in terms of the party, I think they're very clearly saying that it's quality over quantity, and that they are going to have mechanisms, very strong mechanisms, and there will be questions about this because you're putting together two different bodies. One is a political supervision group, and the other one is the party one. So when you put the criminal and the party together, the question is how are those going to go? And I think a lot of people will be looking at that. I think there will be a lot of questions about how all of this kinds of comes together. I mean, I think the questions were very good when they were talking about, well, what does this exactly mean? How does this work? How are you going to incentivize people who are maybe perhaps a little uncertain as this new era kind of comes in? And then on the ideological side, they were talking about this principal contradiction. For people who aren't familiar with Chinese government speak, they're just talking about what is the problem, what are the issues that are facing China, and how do we solve them. And they basically, you show the things that it's unbalanced economy is the issue. They need more attention to environmental issues, social issues. It's not purely about economics.
I think one thing I really would like to see if they have more, or at least a topic on international relations and on either political or economic, in terms of how to address Belt and Road. I think that would be even more satisfactory. So that
I'd agree with that, but the problem with that is the whole press conference could have been hijacked by foreign press agencies saying, what is China's big goal here? I think it was very deliberate. They wanted to concentrate on what exactly internally Xi Jinping thought is, how does it affect discipline, how does it affect the things. Now, the second part of this kind of contradiction is this, they've married socialism with free markets. How to put those together in a semblance that has created a lot of success. The next thing is how to take Marxism and relate it to traditional Chinese values, Confucianism. How do you put these two together? These are seemingly very, very different and contradictory ideas, but I think Xi is very, very much committed to creating an aspirational society that tells people, okay, this is where we're going. This is the role of the party. This is why we sacrifice. This is why we work. All right. There is something at the end of the tunnel, and I think this is one of the big takeaways from this particular party conference.
It's not only aspirational; it's also followed by pragmatism. It's not there to say, okay, let's go for pursuit of happiness. Go for freedom and democracy, but rather, all the clear steps that are lying there, and those achievables and with all the milestones. So that's really more convincing to the Chinese people.
Well, let's talk about the new era, where the CPC adding Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for a new era to its constitution. Let's talk about the significance of that. We heard from the officials saying that all party members will arm themselves with this thought. Well, how will Xi's thought impact China down the road moving into the future?
I think one is that the socialist road with Chinese characteristics is now in place for many years, but right now we are living in a new global context, and also the party's mission is also evolving from the liberating people to make people live a better life, but right now to more for quality of growth, and also for the sending China onto a center stage in the global arena. And so therefore each of the party members and also the party agencies are really rallying around a new mission that's more forward. And now there are also aside from economic growth, so the social construction and so the what they call the ecological civilization becomes more important, and also the Chinese global leadership that's also very much in the making. So therefore, it is really something that is we can justifiably call it's a new era.
Well, everything he said. I mean, it's clearly a new vision. I mean, this is really the first time that a leader in modern China has said the next 30 years, and let's lay out what exactly we're going to do. I think it is necessary in terms of what we were talking about, mixing aspirations with pragmatism. I mean, you have Mao, who comes out with this big idea of a socialist utopia and things like that, but it was very difficult to achieve. Then you go to pragmatism with Deng, but at the end, pragmatism is like, oh, let's put some money in our pocket. But I don't think that's how you hold a country together. So I think Xi is trying to mix these things. We'll see how it turns out. I was struck today there was also one other absent. There wasn't many international press groups, and in fact, other than the Japanese one, there wasn't a question from the US or European press corps. I think China has a very, very strong story. It can lead by example, and it probably doesn't have to worry so much about the negativity of a lot of Western press as they regard it. A lot of it is due to misunderstanding, the idea of trying to put the optics of what they expect from their own government and systems onto China. And I think in terms of developing more confidence and a thicker skin on that, that's probably going to be necessary as China takes a more central role in the world.
All right, certainly. Thank you very much for your time today, Lubell Chung and Einar Tangen. I want to get to my colleague, Su Yuting, who was at that news conference and has some more details for us. So Yuting, what can you tell us about the highlights of the news conference?
Well, Rachel, you know that the press conference has impressed me a lot. You know that the international media has paid a great attention to this press conference, as it's the last press conference on the interpretation of the report to the 19th CPC National Congress. And we could see that lots of foreign media and foreign journalists have raised questions to the officials. And that indicates that the international community is very interested in China's development in the next 5 years. And one highlight is that the officials has said the significance of China's new vision for the development in the next 5 years, and also highlight the significance of the socialism with Chinese characteristics in the new era. That means that the contradiction between the unbalanced and inadequate development and people's ever-growing needs for a better life is now the major contradiction we face today. And the previous contradiction is that the ever-growing cultural and material needs of the people and between the backward social production. That means that China has entered into the new normal of its economic development, and its development has been shifting from high-speed development to high-quality growth. Rachel?
Well, Yuting, now that the CPC National Congress has wrapped up, you were there this whole last week covering it in person. Tell us what it was like for you as a correspondent to be there, to witness this historic event, through your own eyes.
Yes, Rachel, that over the past few days, it's quite busy for me and my colleague who are now busy covering the 19th National Congress. We went to the Great Hall of the People for the opening session of the 19th CPC National Congress and also the closing ceremony of the National Congress. And today, I'm also here at the press conference. What impressed me most is that now China has gained great momentum in its development, and the international community has paid great attention to China's development. And one thing is very significant is that previously I talked to a Pakistani reporter. He told me that China's, the emerging contribution to the global economic governance is very impressive, and China's examples for alleviation of the poverty and also its growth model has set a good example for the developing countries to learn from. So it's very significant and it's very busy one for us to cover the 19th National Congress. And you know that in the next 5 years we can see the new leadership will just guiding the people of the Chinese nation and also the rest of the world to pushing forward a better future. That's not only good for the country itself, but also the rest of the world will stand to benefit. Rachel?
All right, Su Yuting, thank you very much. Appreciate all your hard work this last week. That's Su Yuting live for us in Beijing. Well, the 19th Party Congress has set the blueprint for China's development aspirations. Among them, new terms and buzzwords is China Solutions. Party Chief Xi Jinping emphasized China is offering its knowledge and approach to solving the problems facing mankind. CGTN's Han Bin interviews two political analysts for their insights on what China Solutions mean to China and the world.
What exactly are China Solutions? Propaganda or options?
It means the path, the theory, the system, and the culture of socialism with Chinese characteristics have kept developing, blazing a new trail for other developing countries to achieve modernization.
The message Xi sent is the Communist Party of China has vitality and capability rather than sheer numbers of 90 million.
Throughout China's 30-plus years of opening and reform, it has constantly looked out at the world to see what are solutions. But it's found again and again that the solutions are always in the room. it comes back to understanding local culture and local mindset.
If a country with more than 1 billion people grows in such a short period of time from standing up to getting rich and to being strong, then its reference for the non-Western world countries is great.
Many believe China's solutions are not only theoretical. When it comes to economics and trade, China introduced the Belt and Road Initiative. Xi Jinping cited a Chinese saying, "To get rich, you need to build a road first." When it comes to financial governance, China created the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank. And when it comes to climate change, China takes the lead to fulfill the Paris Accord.
China's solutions are pragmatism based on local knowledge, culture, and conditions. It's not based on a single model. It's a model that can respond to change, and that's what makes it resilient. And that is a marked difference from a lot of the Western views, which are saying there's only one model, you have to follow it.
The information conveyed by the China solutions is the growing confidence. First, China's unique path is already an indisputable fact. The China solutions have already taken shape and will constantly improve. The second message is to provide alternative options and references to non-Western countries that are developing. And the third message is to tell the West, do not always want to impose on others the rules of their own.
Following the earlier China model and China dream, the China solutions concept seems to encapsulate a message for a global influence.
China solutions is a new concept of big diplomacy with a global vision. In this perspective, China is no longer a unique case. China's diplomacy is no longer the traditional narrow sense of dealing only with the relationship between countries, but to seek a role in the global governance system.
And I don't believe that she's saying that the China model needs to be applied cookie-cutter fashion elsewhere. However, experiences of China can be borrowed and adopted. And that, I think, is very key in understanding what the China solution is. It's pragmatic, but it's also very flexible.
China used to say its biggest contributions to mankind is to do its own things well. But Xi Jinping's China solution slogan has completely shifted the direction. Many are waiting to see how much impact of this breakthrough in thinking in foreign policy will have on China's role in world affairs. Han Bin, CGTN, from the Great Hall of the People.
All right, I want to get back to my studio guests, Lubell Chung and Einar Tengen. I want to talk about China's future now that the Congress has wrapped up. The CPC has mapped out some very important goals, like a moderately prosperous society by 2020. That's just 3 years away. What sort of challenges face China in the coming years?
Well, as the report has mentioned, the ill balance between the regional area and the coastal area. So that's something that we need to tackle with. The other is the gap between the rural area and the urban area. And three would be the quality versus quantity. So therefore, supply side reform should really continue on its path. And to ordinary people, housing price is also on the top consideration. Food safety is also deserve constant attention, and education, Medicare, environmental quality. So all of these, are really building high expectation on this leadership as how to provide the satisfactory solution. Yes, we have made substantial progress, but people's expectations are growing. So therefore, we need really to have new strategy and new vigor to move forward to deliver.
Well, you covered a lot of the internal. I think the days when everything was just jobs and disposable income, there's going to be social measurements there in terms of the environment, quality of life, etc. Internationally, I think the biggest issues are what's happening in the world. This turn towards protectionism, the amount of chaos that's going on. Everyone wants to separate into a smaller entity. These are real challenges to trade because you just don't know what's going to happen. So China has thrived on a process-based system. It is not political. If you take a look at the Belt and Road, the countries that belong to the Belt and Road, they're sworn enemies. You have Israel, you have Iran, okay, you have the Palestinians, you have Syria. I mean, there's just no, other way to express this than by doing this, they're setting this new world order, which is not based on the post-World War II Cold War thing that a heavy dose of ideology is given with every dollar from the IMF or the World Bank. They're just saying, look, this is about trade. Your country is your business. We are not going to get involved. I mean, I think they're learning a lesson from perhaps mistakes in the US, where we've got involved in things with the greatest intentions, but unfortunately, it has resulted in more tragedy. So I think these are the lessons learned and how they're going to try to steer their own course.
Yeah, in addition, actually, Xi Jinping time and again mentioned that China has really benefited during the open door policy to be able to adapt to international norms and rules. And right now, China is really having the eligibility to participate and even lead in the rule-making process for the global order.
Yeah, big change from 10 years ago, as we said. I mean,
Yeah.
China is now the one who's championing it, whereas before they were the ones kind of reacting to it.
Yeah.
All right, Einar Tengen and Lubell Chung, thank you very much for joining us today and giving us your thoughts and insights into the National Congress now that it's finally wrapped up. And thank you for watching our special coverage of the final news conference of the 19th CPC National Congress. I'm Rachel Lubell in Beijing. Please stay with CGTN. Li Dongning is up next with Global Watch. I'll see you later.